Hey folks, Brian Short here with Clean Cut Cutting Boards. This thing is awesome. I always carry one along with me in the truck for days like today where I find myself just getting off the water. We got a couple, nice walleyes that we kept to eat for tonight. And the fish cleaning station is broke down, or a lot of times early spring and in the fall they're closed, right? A lot of places people don't have fish cleaning stations, or whether you're somewhere really remote, you're back at your cabin or your camper, you find yourself after a good day of fishing, you got some fish to clean, and you don't have anywhere to do it. I always have this Clean Cut in the back of my truck, ready to go anywhere. That's what's awesome about them. They come in two different sizes, a variety of colors to meet your needs. These things are just all-purpose and on the go. You can flip this thing over, and if you're having a big gathering or something, it's basically got a big bowl on the back to put your pulled pork in it. You can make a vegetable tray, whatever it may be. It is more than just a cutting station. It is a very, very versatile, durable unit made by Rufflin Kennels. So check them out over at rufflinkennels.com for the Clean Cut Cutting Station. Try it out. I guarantee you're going to love it like I do.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. Today we're talking ice and everything nice, even some open water, with the man who knows it the best, coming over from the ice capital of the world, it seems like, over there in Minnesota. We got with us Mr. Nick Lindner. How we doing today? How's the fishing been?
Good. How are you doing? Is it really No Limits?
It's No Limits.
That's
No
the name.
Limits.
Okay.
That's the name. Unlike Minnesota, where it sounds like they're bringing your limits down.
That's true. Yeah. No, that is one of the hot topics. I'm even starting to see some. Obviously, like the fishing community's been talking about bringing the limits down in Minnesota for a long time. But like we're just starting to see the mainstream news. I just saw an article this morning when I was looking, so it must be real now. It must be actually happening potentially. So
I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't get to fish over there very much. And, when I do travel, it's for an NWT, and we don't go to Minnesota very often. So, but every time I go, you kind of got different limits all around the state anyway. But are you seeing numbers decline? Is it fishing pressure? It's live scope, right? Everybody wants to blame it on that, but
yeah, basically, the vast majority of our fisheries are put and take walleye fisheries, basically.
Right.
So like everything is stocked. And like for the most part, most people I think are, keeping what they catch and all that. And obviously there's people that don't, there's people that do it for the sport of it. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. Ultimately there's like a ton of walleyes in all of our lakes. So I don't know. I would say before forward facing, especially, like the argument was like, well, most people are going to catch 2 or 3 walleyes. So
all right.
What's the point of bringing it down or, leaving it up? There's almost like an artificial limit, the amount that you can catch, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I don't know. I think it's generally a positive thing. I think at the end of the day, 6 walleyes is like a crap load of walleyes. So
yeah, definitely.
6 per person. You go out with 2 other buddies and you got 18 walleyes in the well. That's enough to feed you and your families for, several meals. Yeah.
I was, I was guiding, we'll catch a couple, and I'm like, 2. I'm like, 2's a mill for like my wife and I. We got like 2 nice 18, 19 inches. I'm like, that's a lot. Fish is feeling, So I'm like, that's a lot of fish. When I get clients you get meat fishermen out there and they want to fill that box, and that's the goal, is get their limit. And yeah, we want to catch as many possible. But I'm like, are you really going to eat all those? If there's 4 of you in the boat and, over here it's 4, and then of course, they want to keep those big ones. And I'm like, if you're paying customer, it's your fish. You can do what you want. I'm going to give you my input. And 95 or more % of the time, they're like, okay, cool. And they throw it back.
Yeah.
Those 22 plus inchers. But I got to keep tabs on the Mille Lacs thing, because that's always an issue, with the limit over there. It's keep one, you can't keep. You can only fish till after July 1st. You can't keep any, but I think they bumped it up a little bit this year. So, but all I hear is what a great fishery and how healthy it is. I'm like, well, then, but you can't keep any fish. I get it. The whole tribal thing and the netting is just kind of a shit show over there, more or less.
Yeah. I think they're bringing the limit up to 3 here pretty soon. And, or maybe it is now already. I don't like keep up on it super hard, because I'm generally not harvesting a lot anyway.
Right.
Especially places like Mille Lacs and stuff. But But yeah, whether it's 3 or it's 0, I feel like the fishery in a lot of ways has been really similar over the years. There's a lot of walleyes. It's a good amount of smallmouth. The walleye bite has varied pretty dramatically in over that period of time, but it's not really anything to do with the amount of walleyes in the system. It's almost more to do with just the amount of forage in the system.
Right.
Like the last year and a half or so, the bite on Mille Lacs has been really tough. But it's just because there's so much forage. It's like, I mean, Mille Lacs is insane. It's like a forage making machine. There's so much mud. There's so many bugs. So you've got, like, throughout the course of the summer, you'll have, you'll start the year off with some of the minnow hatches, and you got the perch hatches and stuff like that. And then it's bug hatches like every single week. So the walleyes are just super, super well fed. So, and then other years, the walleyes are skinny and you can catch 30 of them. So it's just, it varies so much.
It's tough when you got the all you can eat buffet all year, and then you go out there and try to throw something in there and say, but this is better. I promise, and try to trick them into it. I asked Joel Nelson about that a few years back. We were talking about Mille Lacs, and I was like, the smallies I hear about what a great smallmouth fishery it is, the walleye. I'm like, if you can't keep in these fish, how is there any forage? And he was like, oh, forage is not a problem. And he's like, the amount of, baby perch and whatever. And that's what you just second to that, in a sense that, yeah, it's a forage factory, which that can support it. Kind of Lake Oahe. Why are these fish getting so big? It's the herring, and there's a lot of bait, but like any system, it's cichlid in a bit where if we have a flood and all that stuff gets pushed out, there's no forage. Boom. The fish are starving. They're hungry, but they're skinny, and then obviously they're not growing. And I'd rather it be a tougher bite with a lot of forage than no forage and an easy bite.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense for sure. The smallmouth thing is interesting too, because it seems like the smallmouth are almost just on a whole different plane than the walleye to some degree, because of course they're eating some minnow and some Cisco and stuff like that, but they eat so much crayfish on Mille Lacs. So they pretty much just have that, that they can go and take advantage of. And I know when they've done diet studies, they found almost exclusively crayfish. And obviously that's going to depend on time of year and whatnot. But yeah, I feel like the smallmouth will always have stuff to eat no matter what happens with the walleye population and all that.
That's interesting. There's that many crayfish even. It's
There's
amazing.
A lot of rock,
yeah. A lot of mud, great for bugs, obviously, and then obviously you got rock, you got crayfish. So I get to fish a lot of structureless areas, so it's mud, and then you hope that there's some weed growth. So in the river, we got weeds and submerged trees. Depends on what part of the Missouri River you're on, I guess. There's obviously some rock, loose and Clark-West, but most of my time, we have one rock pile, and starting to get a lot of weeds thanks to the zebra mussels, which is helping the forage. And there's more bait than ever. The perch are, booming and getting big, and because now they have a place to hide all year, which they never did before. And I mean, I have yet to see a zebra mussel fishery go down versus get better when you move into certain places. Of course, the DNR will never say that publicly. It's
you got to make sure to clean, drain, and dry, right?
Yep. I'm like, I don't know who doesn't pull their plug, but I guess it's easy to forget. But
yeah,
I got a whole different opinion on that. I don't have a lot of zebra mussels sticking to my boat flying down the river, at 60 miles an hour. Even while you're moving and fishing, I get it. If you leave your boat in the slip for all summer long, something's going to attach to it. But I'd say you can't pick up if we get a snag and bring in a stick or something, or even just a rock, it's going to be wadded. You're going to have them all over, and those could easily drop into your boat or what have you. So I don't know.
Yeah,
you ain't stopping it. It's a giant waste of money. So
I would tend to agree. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not I don't study this field or anything, but from what I've heard, the vast majority of a lot of that is from things that are in the water for a long time, coming in and out of the water, like boat lifts and stuff like that. So anyway.
Yeah, you just got to let Mother Nature will do what it does. I mean, we had Allie on here once, and he explained it too. We were on the same page, both kind of nerdy science guys. He's obviously that's what he does, so he gets it. And he's like, in Erie, right? We don't have Erie's not the fishery it is without the zebra mussels coming in years ago and cleaning up the water, but they're not there no more. Now it's cougar mussels, right?
Okay.
There's things will happen in the systems and they will die out or expand or whatever the case may be. I'm not a biologist, so but I've seen it happen all over places where there isn't too many zebra mussels. I know little lakes they've drained them and that'll take care of it, and then they fill it back up, and 2 years later there's zebra mussels in there again. I'm like, you stop wasting these taxpayer dollars on all this stuff that a bird can pick up and transfer to another body of water in the next 10 minutes. This is dumb. So that's what zebra mussel soapbox. No.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And one thing I just like bugs me so much is I'll pull up to just a random local lake and they've got this big giant like machine like for washing down boats and whatever. And they got 2 people, so they're paying 2 people to sit at the ramp all day. This might be on like a Wednesday, They might have 2 or 3 people come to the ramp that day at the most in some cases. And so they've got 2 people that they're paying to sit there, and they have a super expensive big giant machine that they had to wheel over there and park. And anyway, so yeah, I'm sure that barely costs any money to do, right?
Yeah, well, you're Minnesota, and I think everybody's seen that your government is really good at managing funds.
Yeah, super good. Yeah, very efficient. Yeah,
very, very good at it. So things are a little different over there, but they definitely spend a lot of money on it. South Dakota's gotten a lot better. I haven't had the interns at the boat ramp all summer, and thankfully they at least use the interns to do that. They're there, but they're doing krill studies and other things. They're not so much on handing out the information sheets because that's all you can really do is educate people on it. However, one day this year is a weekday, blowing like 40. I was the only boat on the water. It's probably like August or July, and I come out, and there's the little mobile washdown trailer in a truck sitting in the parking lot with 2 people in it, which I haven't seen the entire year. And this is a weekday, and I'm the only boat. And this boat parking lot holds 100, 200 trucks and trailers, and there's 1 truck and trailer there, and that's mine. And these people sat there and waited till I got off the water. And I pulled out, and then they asked me a couple questions, looked around. I'm like, are you freaking serious? Look at all these. If you work for the park, go pick up all those branches that are broke. Go do something else. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm glad you're doing your job. And they're like, oh, you think today's bad? You should have seen where we were at yesterday. I'm like, awesome. So you sat somewhere where there was nobody during the week. If you want to check people, come here on a Saturday when this thing is completely full. Then you'll create a traffic jam and have a bunch of pissed off people. But like we do something better. And they're young. They're summer help. I'm sure they're not paying them a ton of money. Yeah. And they keeping them busy. Maybe they just had to fill some time that day. I don't know. But that's literally the only time I'd seen them all year. So they're definitely doing better. I know Wyoming has stepped up their game. So they're kind of late to the game and coming in heavy like Minnesota does. South Dakota's got a little better about it. And I haven't fished in Nebraska for a while, so I don't know. But anyway, enough zebra mussels. That's just, you got to get my blood pressure rising. We start getting governmental and start talking about funding. We'll go back a little bit. So people that don't know Nick, tell them a little bit what's your backstory, where you've been working, what are you doing, what's coming up. For the don't know, Nick's just, they recognize the name probably, and they're like, hey, that sounds pretty damn familiar. Guys all over the YouTube, all over the social media out there, ice fishing, putting out killer content, putting out some of the best tips. I watch stuff all the time. I'm like, all right, yeah, I got to try that. It's between you and Brett out there on a Tuesday night or whatever it may be, putting out stuff, but let our listeners and viewers know just a little bit of Nick's background.
Yeah. I mean, I guess even before I get into that, I should also just mention, like, while I'm on the same page with you on the AIS stuff, if there's anyone listening, like, I'm not like a straight up like DNR hater, whatever, right? That's just like one thing I feel like is a kind of a waste of money and frivolous and like whatever, but they do like a ton of super good stuff, and there's a lot of good things happening. It's especially here in Minnesota, because that's what I know, but like in other places I'm sure too. But
overwhelming. I
should just say that quick too.
Right. No, you have an overwhelming amount of bodies of water, and as you said earlier, they're all full of walleyes.
Yeah,
and that just doesn't
they do a
happen.
great job in a lot of ways. Yeah,
That just doesn't happen by itself. So there is some funding and some management that's going great. They do a lot of great things. South Dakota, our COs are awesome here.
Yep.
And our fisheries are excellent. Other states are other states. Everybody has their own issues. But when you start to get into how things are managed, someone's always going to have a gripe one way or the other. But overall, I think most of the fisheries across the whole Midwest that I go to they're all thriving. So
yeah, 100%. No, but I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, so me, so like you said, I make a lot of YouTube content. And I grew up in a fishing family for sure. So grew up fishing with my dad a lot. My dad is Jim Lindner. So grew up doing a lot of bass fishing with him and muskie fishing in the fall. A lot of, stuff like that. And actually in the winter, which we're in the middle of the winter right here now, did a lot of my dad, he likes to go a little bit off the beaten path. Like I didn't do a lot of walleye and crappie fishing when I was a kid through the ice. It was more like catfish and whitefish. I feel like were the two main things we would go for in the winter. So that's just kind of, that's like his style in the winter, and a lot of bass and muskies in the summer. And so from there, I ended up working with him in my teenage years, early 20 years. So, spending a lot of time with my grandpa, Ron, and his brother, Al, and Uncle Daniel, and my dad's cousin, Troy. So, it's kind of a whole big family of, guys that like to fish, and Uncle Willie as well, who's an awesome photographer. So that's a little bit of my background, but yeah.
All just legends. And I'm fortunate. I've got to work with several of those guys. I've met Al, had some dinners, and done some photo shoots with your dad. And Bill was running the camera on some of those occasions. And yeah, that apple didn't fall far from the tree. It kind of hit Nick in the head, and here you are.
Well, so it just spent so much time in it, right? Like I remember being, this tall or whatever. You guys don't have a reference. I'm sitting down cam here, but I remember being real small and going out muskie fishing in Minnesota, on the Mississippi River, when the lakes are probably at least skimmed, maybe have some ice on it. And that little 7-year-old Nick was just in the boat so that dad could have another sucker in the water, So I definitely have memories of that when I was younger, just cuddled up or whatever, cozied up underneath the steering wheel with seven jackets on me, just trying to stay warm while we're dragging suckers for muskies. So so I grew up in it and doing a lot of it. And then as I got older, I started fishing some tournaments with my grandpa, just local derbies, like the local bass league. And you can kind of see as the patriarch of the family that how everyone got into fishing, because he was a super awesome mentor. Just, he always wants to help people out, whether it's family members or not. If you knew him, he was always looking to help and mentor people. So he loved fishing those derbies. I loved fishing those derbies with him, just local around the Brainerd area. And then, growing up from there, did some travel. When I went to college, I did a little bit of traveling with my dad when he was running around the country a little bit, just fishing some of the bass opens. So I went with him and practiced, and did some co-angling in some of those tournaments, which was kind of cool, going to all different types of places, basically from Tennessee up to New York to wherever. That was just like a short little window. But from there, I started getting more into walleye fishing, just the challenge of it. Grew up, doing a lot of casting and stuff like that. But so learning trolling, crankbaits, rigs, all that sort of, it was sort of a whole new world kind of in my early 20s, learning some of that. And I went from there, and I sort of, I definitely have started to had started to gravitate towards walleyes at that point in time, just because I think excuse me, I think it's just like the challenge of them. They are difficult, especially locally around where we live. I mean, it's a lot of clear bodies of water. Super highly pressured fish. I mean, I would assume the Twin Cities, like metro area in Minnesota, is probably more pressured and difficult. But up by where we live, Brainerd, Minnesota, I mean, it's about as like challenging as it comes outside of places that just don't have walleyes, or like really.
You have a ton of walleye, but it doesn't mean they're easy to catch.
Yeah, it would be normal to go out on any of these local lakes and use the best technology with the best baits and tactics that we've honed really, really hard, and cast at 100 walleyes and maybe catch one or catch 0 or catch 4. Like that.
But you guys make it look so easy on the social media stuff and YouTube.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. I've been doing a little bit more live streams and like uncut videos where there's no editing and stuff like that. And then those videos, you get a feel for just the challenge of, catching these fish. But yeah, most YouTube videos you watch, I mean, what you don't see in that YouTube video that someone put out is that they went out yesterday and didn't catch anything.
Yep.
And then today they went out and smoked them, but I mean that was 12 hours and it was 3 fish, 3 nice fish, but it was 3 fish.
Yeah, most people don't realize how much work goes into a 3-minute YouTube video or even a full 30 minute episode or whatever. It's like there might be 3 days involved into that. That's not counting editing. That's finding the fish, catching the fish, and then if you and I do a lot of our own self filming, that's just that's a pain in the ass. I mean. When you get someone along with you that can help, or if you Brett are out doing something, it's like, this is so much better. Now, if the fish would just cooperate, right? I have an extra set of hands.
Yeah, for sure. No, so we did a competition on Lake Winnipeg last winter that we shot like the last week of March. And it was like a 48-hour window. So we started about halfway through the day, fished the rest of that day, through the night, the whole next day, through the next night, and then half of the next day. So it was a 48-hour window, and so it's ice camping, fishing, trying to get your 5 biggest fish over that window, and self-filming. So the thing that's like, you can kind of show sort of the grind of some of those things in the video, but the one thing that is kind of hard to show and explain is just the grind of self-filming. It takes so much just extra like mind space and effort and sometimes time, just trying to fix a camera that stopped working or
battery management, especially if you're ice camping.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of factors that go into shooting a YouTube video, but you get kind of decent at it over the years. You do it enough. So
yeah, you figure out how to keep those things running longer and the bigger SD card, so you don't have to keep running over and turning it on and off, because then you're like, how many fish did I miss? Because I was like, oh, crap, I forgot to turn the camera on. It's a hassle.
Yeah, some of it's just money, too.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
Some expensive batteries, and you go into Amazon and you look, you go to buy some SD cards, and you're like, $300 for this SD? Well, I guess I have to get it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. The gear isn't getting any cheaper. There's more of it. I mean, that's a good thing. I guess the competitiveness can drive some of the price down, but a GoPro is still about the same price it was when they came out 15, 20 years ago. They're just getting better. So they can make it better and keep the cost down, I guess. I don't know. I just saw a GoPro 360 the other day trying to compete with the other, the 360.
The 360, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, if that's got the built-in Wi-Fi, that would work. So I don't know. It isn't cheap and it isn't easy. Your grandpa Ron, I had one of my first time meeting with him was an MPA conference, sat down and played cards. Man, you want to talk about some stories and just an eye opener. And if you got to fish them, I mean, you are fortunate and blessed coming from that family, which would explain why you know what you're doing out there, and you know how to put the content together, you know how the media part of it works, you know how to to film what people, viewers are watching. So we'll drop the links in here to all your social and your YouTubes and your sponsor stuff. I mean, these guys are all benefiting greatly from you because you're putting it out the right way, right? How people want to see it because you grew up doing it and seeing it done. It was an NPA conference, your dad and I was talking, and Johnny Morris was coming. And of course, Johnny Morris knows Ron. he knows them all, and James. And your dad walked up and said, "Hey man, you think we can get a seat up here front for Ron?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, definitely. He can sit wherever the hell he wants. He's Ron. He could you can put a chair on stage, whatever, man. Just he can sit wherever he wants. James, it's cool." He's like, "Okay, that's great. Thanks." I said, "Hey, I do you one better." I said, "Johnny just showed up, and I could use a little company in the green room. You just want to come back?" Ron was on one of his last years here, and it moved like he was 13, getting ready to take out of the blocks in a 100-meter dash. He's like, "Yep, let's go." He left the little walker thing and just went right up the stairs. It was like, "Elevator?" He said, "Nope, let's go." It was just like 2 flights, but he went up or out, and those two, it was like reuniting a couple that haven't seen each other in 40 years. I mean, he's like trying to introduce himself, and Johnny Morris is like, just gave him a big hug. And he's like, I know, I know who you are,
Yeah.
and it was great. They sat there in BS that I went and brought Gary Parsons in as well, just to keep some people that he was familiar with. Johnny gets a little nervous when he's speaking to his peers. So
Okay.
it happens to the biggest of names. He he's very chill and doesn't do a lot of big public speaking type stuff. You may see him at a bass tournament or something like that. But he's speaking to 250 people at the MPA conference. So these are all, professional anglers or aspiring ones to be. And man, he can talk and it was awesome. But what made it more awesome was having Ron there, having James there. Al's come in the past and spoke, and those things just, they're legendary names in a walleye world that will be around forever. You're carrying on that torch. You're keeping it going, keeping things. It's it's awesome. And just, I'm super glad to see it. You're fortunate, and just, I hope you just keep fishing and putting it out, because just, it's good stuff, man. Just keep on doing it. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm super lucky for sure. I think one thing that did kind of set them apart at different points is, like you said, with Gramps, with Ron, like his energy. I mean, he's not the kind of guy, "Oh, okay, let's go." Like, he is.
Oh, no.
He's got crazy energy. He's a guy, like a man of action. Like, if we're talking about non-fishing tips here, like just life tips, like, be a person of action, go after what you're going to do. I mean, he'll think of something, he'll be on the phone with 5 people sending it up. And this was something, from a conversation at lunch, and most people, when they have, their master ideas, they have to spend 6 months stewing on it and making sure it's the right idea before they take action. And he was like a person of action for sure. Right. So, like, way back in the day, when they were just starting TV, like, they ID'd TV as something that would be good to do. And he just went out and he got some cameras, and they just went out and did TV,
Yeah.
So it's just his personality was, basically, I mean, if it wasn't for his personality of going out and doing that, I mean, who knows if anyone would know who Al is today,
Right.
Al might have just been a fishing guide or whatever, or maybe he would have, found his way into media. I don't know. But
yeah, I think from my time with Ron, it was all business all the time. I mean, but it wasn't, let's just go talk about business. He was a sponge, and he never stopped learning. He always wanted, I mean, he's 70 some years old at a conference, and I'm talking about website development and might have been some media, social type stuff. And Ron is in the front row and asks more questions than anybody. He's like, "What do you think about this?" And YouTube's just kind of becoming a thing. Or us, the walleye world, we're always quite a bit behind on a lot of this digital tech side of things. and so some of that stuff's just popping up. And I remember when Facebook was fairly new, but Ron's asking all these questions like, is this
all over that?
Yeah. Is this crap, or is this going to stick, or what do you think, but it's brilliant. Let's get everybody's opinion in the room where this is going, because he's just thinking, how can I leverage this? What are we going to do? What's Lindner Media going to do? And it just, they made so many moves where Al is always just that constant, this guy can catch fish, Ron's he's in the invention, the beetle spin story and all that stuff. You're right. If he had a great idea, it was draw it down in about 5 minutes. Let's figure out how to put that thing to use.
Yeah, no, it is crazy too. Just when you have that kind of personality, and then as you start to do more things, you get more connections and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's crazy to know how many things that he had his finger on at different points in time. You said like the beetle spin thing, like the worm blower, like he invented the worm blower. Like that is the most random thing. And like what are a few of the other ones? Obviously like the Lindy rig back in the day,
right?
But I had actually just recently found out that he was one of the early partners for Shore Lunch that you go buy at the grocery store. And then he got out of that, and went to focus on in fishermen and all the other stuff. But it's just like,
I think those things are gonna keep popping up through the next 20 years of your life. You're gonna continue to hear stories and things about them that you probably never, knew or heard or whatever. I mean, they were the innovators, Ron and Al, and then and James, and it's just, and your next kind of generation of that is probably Gary and Keith, and and some of that. But I think we're looking at things are moving fast nowadays.
Yeah,
they're moving super fast, and you're innovating. You're out there, and you do a lot of stuff with Brett, and those things kind of gotta. There's got to be that next group. We got Chase and and these guys, but the Dan Springler's creating baits as fast as you can possibly imagine over at Berkeley. Mm-hmm. You got the Rapala guys doing the same thing, and it's hard to keep up. So who is this? Who is the next Al and Ron or Gary and Keith? And I don't think it'll be like a one or two guy thing. It's going to be probably a whole generation, of movement type stuff of you and that era of guys bringing this new technology into stuff that you've already learned how to do the business side of it, in a sense, right? From growing up in it, and Brett's getting it firsthand, working over there with them every day, and as Chase as well has grown up with that. I think that's probably the next big bang and next big movement, which is awesome because this isn't an easy industry or business to be in.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about this new line that Seaguar introduced this year. It's been on the market for a couple years, but it's been over in Japan. They just brought it over to the United States this year, and I absolutely love it. It's called PEX8. This is by far the thinnest diameter braid I have ever used. This is still an 8-strand braided line with such a thin diameter. It's unbelievable. I'm using an 18-pound test today, and it feels like 2 pound. The advantages to this thin diameter is if it's windy out, I'm not catching much wind, I get less bow in the line. High pressure situations where the fish are, taking on a lot of fishing pressure, a thinner diameter line, less visible, of course. Current in the rivers, I'm going to cut the current a little better. I'm going to get better control, and they did all this without losing any of its strength. This stuff is still strong as all the Seaguar braided lines, and the sensitivity is second to none. So check this out. This is PEX8 over at seaguar.com.
You could probably attest to it. None of us are getting super rich off it by all means. Neither. We're not retired. That's why you see these guys fishing when they're 60, 70, 80 years old. They're still doing this stuff. Yeah. Because they want to, because we love it, but we have to as well. A little bit of necessity in there.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. The idea is if you can just own the same home long enough, eventually you'll own your home. So that's a good, right. That's the retirement strategy.
Yep. Stay in the same place long enough. What you're in the industry, what do you kind of feel where it's moving? Obviously, forward-facing sonar stuff has been hot topic everywhere. Back to DNR, Minnesota guys are taking the lead on that and doing a lot of research and studying, which is good. We had Jeremy on here once, Smith, and we chatted about that a little bit. I think he helped out with some of that. But we're still too early to tell on a lot of this stuff, if it's effects or not. I don't think it's affecting a whole hell of a lot, or will it ever? What are you kind of got your finger on the pulse? Where do you think things are going in the industry? Good, bad, tackle sales, angling numbers?
It seems to me like a lot of people are fishing. I can tell you when I go out on the lake, it seems like there's a lot of angling hours happening. So I think that's a great thing. I think the biggest thing is just going to be, just keeping up with the resource, keeping up, and I think the resource seems like it's really good here in Minnesota. This is, that's what I know best is Minnesota. Like it seems like things are in good shape. Like we got tons of walleyes in the lake, like I kind of mentioned before. The bass fishing is awesome in Minnesota. Crazy good. I think they're working through some things on the muskie side. I think stocking had been down statewide for a bit there in Minnesota. But muskie fishing, still is pretty good around here as well. And they're doing a lot of stuff on the panfish side to try and, rebound some of those populations. And I think that a lot of that is working. So the resource has been great. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people in the industry for sure. About a month ago, we had that St. Paul Ice Show, which is a big deal kind of in the ice world, kind of like the ICAST of ice fishing, and numbers are never, since the COVID years, the pandemic years, like numbers have not been the same, but like there's still a lot of people, there's still a lot of hype. And I think people are just going to those types of things less. I think we're seeing, this isn't news by any means. Right. Like more and more people obviously are just becoming more and more reliant on the internet for networking, if it's social media, and they're seeing what's happening, they're seeing the reports, the ice reports, the fishing reports, all of that. They're hearing about bites in different places. How many people knew about green walleyes in Lake Winnipeg 20 years ago, and now it's like everyone's seen that video. You'll still have a couple comments, that are like, oh, green walleye, that's crazy, where is that from? But like people know about it, right? Like the amount of stuff that everyone knows is so much higher. Just being honest and transparent and no limits is pretty big in today's world, because there's so much information out there, and you just can't get away with you can't get away with, not only can't you get away with lying, you can't get away with being biased, in today's world. So so it just seems like the information, there's so much of it. Some of the sports shows, they might see dwindling attendance, and people might think, oh man, like the industry is going down, or whatever. But like it's just because more people are plugged in on the internet, and there's less need for that in-person stuff. So I don't know if that was the direction you wanted to go on that.
Yeah, no, I think the sports show stuff is dwindling, but it seems like the sales are good. Which I always talk to, when I'm at one or with Cold Snap or Norsk, whoever, and it's like attendance was low, but we sold a ton of suits and we sold a ton of batteries. Like, and that's what we're here for. So maybe less people, but those people that are there usually are there to buy, and it's a place where you can go and look at this company A versus B right there, and they might be next to each other or across from each other in booths, and kind of see where you can get to. So there's always good deals at those sports shows. If you're looking to save a few bucks at St. Paul Ice Show, the Dakota Angler Fishing Institute, as it'll be called, moving forward. Those things are great places, and they help keep those small businesses like Dakota Angler obviously intact. But I think a lot of people also come to them just for the camaraderie. They want to come see Nick, and they want to come see. I think you had Chemos and Parts. A bunch of those guys are in the Whitewater booth over there. We had Max over in the Cold Snap booth. It's a great place to come meet and mingle and what have you. So they're still good. They're fun. I know if you're working it can get a little old come Sunday. You're like, oh man, these are some long days, man. But I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever uptick. So.
It's a good place to go and get sick if you're going to be there for three days.
It's definitely true. You cannot have enough. Go wash your hands plenty. I did the Dakota Angler Ice when I came home, and 2 days later, I'm like, oh man, I had crud that lasted. Yeah, it's been lasting most of December, or that was early November. It lasted most of November. It sucked. So, Bring a lot of hand sanitizer. But the tournaments, you're not doing any really tournaments nowadays, except for what you got, league night. I think you guys do.
Yeah, we do a league night, which is super fun. And honestly, I mean, it's really challenging. Like
Oh yeah,
there's super good anglers in there. We've already talked about it, but like the fisheries obviously have their own challenges as well. So you really learn a lot fishing any sort of competitive thing because you get to find out, you get to go out on the water, either do well or maybe not do well, and then you get to chat with all the different people that were on the water and compare notes. And I think anytime you go out with one or two buddies, and you kind of compare notes, you learn so much. So imagine going out in a competitive fashion and fishing as hard as you possibly can for a certain window of time, and then getting to talk to potentially 25 other people that were out there, including some people who absolutely spanked them. So
right.
The local derbies are super, super fun. Me and Brett McComas partner up on them, and we do well sometimes. Sometimes we get beat.
Oh, I hear you.
Sure, but sometimes we win, but sometimes we don't win.
Yeah, I sit in the same boat. Run a local league as well, and sometimes you do great, and you're like, well, you're the guy. You're out here all day, every day. I'm like, yeah, but that's sometimes that can hinder you. For one, I've been out here since 7 a.m. and worked all day, and then was off the water for 15 minutes and went and plugged a boat in to get a charge. Which thank God I got lithiums now. I don't have to do that, and then go back out till 9. You might be a little exhausted in that hot 100-degree July day. But then and you get suckered into something that was there, and literally like in a river fishery, it can change so much by the afternoon, evening bite. That's long gone, and you needed to move on. But you're right. I'll see. Man, I saw those guys fishing over there, and and they spanked us. So that just tells me tomorrow I need to move over there with my clients and try that maybe. But it's fun, and those local things is you're fishing against people that know that fishery, like probably the best 20 sticks are on that body of water.
So not only are they some of the best sticks on the water, but they're also just on those waters, but they're also just like some of the best stakes out there too. Yep. I mean, obviously you got the NWT and you've got the AIM series and people who are, out there all the time, and there's people from all over, right? But like some of the guys that we have in our league, do extremely well or win a lot of the regional tournaments. And like one of the guys in our league is Jake Kahi, and he's one of the best walleye dudes that exists. Like he's one of the best walleye anglers out there. And like he didn't win, him and his partner didn't win AOI this year. They didn't win the team of the year.
There's so many guys that are great that can compete at the highest level, but don't. I mean, there's all sorts of vacation time. There's so many variables that go into it, or they just maybe don't like that just don't do it. It doesn't mean that they're not. You never know who really is the best out there, like the bass. Oh, it's Jacob Wheeler, it's Van Dam, and they've won millions. And you want to be the best, you got to fish that top level and be recognized at it. But
on the bass side, there's a lot more financial incentive to go and fish those tours. And if you do well, you can make a lot more money.
Right.
Well, on the walleye side, there's less opportunities, right? So you have some extremely good anglers who don't tour, basically. Yep. So, and there's enough, like regional derbies where you get to see, there's like in Minnesota, for example, like we have, the Graha in Grand Rapids area. And then, there's some big tournaments up on Leech. And then there's, a bunch of moderate sized tournaments where you can go and win 10, 20 grand, on Gull Lake, Midgey, down in the metro. And then there's a bunch of awesome tournaments in the Dakotas as well, So like I remember one year, was that 2 years ago? I can't remember. Kahi, fished in our league, and I think it was his rookie year on the NWT, did pretty good. And then they had a derby on, I don't know if it was Sakakawea or Oahe or where it was. And then he just stayed in the Dakotas for like a couple more weeks and just like won a couple of the other tournaments out there. That just happened to be going on after that. So. And,
he's good.
And I think Tom Wynn went this last year and won, I think, a bigger one over there too. So
he was fishing right next to me. So the whole 2 days.
It's cool, right? I mean, there's not, you don't necessarily while we don't have the infrastructure that maybe the Bassmaster, MLF type stuff has in place, and as much as like a national draw, walleye fishing's a little bit, it's more northern, obviously. There's still a lot of like cool opportunities for guys to go and compete. So I enjoyed the derby stuff, and I would do more of it. I need to get a big glass boat so I can handle some of these bodies of water. That's kind of what I'm at.
I'm glad I'm in a fiberglass EV21 Nitro. I'm from a 20 to 21, and there's definitely a difference. But jumping from my old aluminum lawn when I went over to a fiberglass to a Ranger years ago, I'm like, oh, there's a big difference. Not that it can't be done. There's plenty of guys that still run the aluminums and jump in, but when you get sent to the Great Lakes or some of these big bodies, and it's going to blow, and it sucks. You're going to get, even a fiberglass boat, it sucks. So I can only imagine, what some of that's like. And it's definitely not, if you're on the Mississippi River, it's like, hey, give me a John boat, some of these situations you're like, I want, Tim Abraham, I think, brought his jet boat last time at a lacrosse, and sweet. The guy knew the place and knew could go anywhere. Unfortunately, the fish weren't in the backwaters, which if they were, he would have whooped up on everybody so he could get to them. So,
no, so that's the hard part, right? It would be really fun to go fish some of that, like the Great Lakes and stuff, but you just can't commit to going and doing that if you don't have a big boy boat, a big giant glass boat is kind of, you almost just have to do it if you're going to go. If you're going to go somewhere and you're going to put dates in your calendar and you're going to say, I'm going to go out and fish unless they call the derby off, like you can't commit to doing that without a big boat. So,
and if anybody wonders about that, just go follow Joshua Jones. He jumped in the NWT It's the big guy in a little boat. He doesn't have a little boat no more because he went, this doesn't work out very well because he's a big dude. And maybe he had like an 18-foot Lumacraft or something like that. And at Erie, and it was brutal. Hell, I came in, and he couldn't go out. He went out kind of just past the takeoff and fished for a little bit, and he was like, "This is dumb." But it was smart. It's like, yes, you should not be going out there in that. None of us should be going out there in that. So you definitely should be in your boat. And he did that for the first year, and he was like, and that's just what he had, right? That's what maybe it's whatever. That's the boat he had, and jumped in, learned a lot, but then coming to, I think last year was the second year on tour, and he went and got a 620 or 620, bought a Ranger, bought a fiberglass boat, and then he's like, I got this. And then he's like, yeah, this is a little bit of a game changer, and this is kind of where I need to be if I'm gonna invest all that money to compete for this. This is probably one of the biggest tools in the box.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like an 18, 19-foot aluminum boat is just a perfect, amazing boat for 98% of fisheries.
Right.
But you get out in the Great Lakes. I've never been to Sakakawea, but I would assume you get out there at the wrong time, and if you don't have a big glass boat, you're going to wish you did.
Yep, because that 2%, those are the tournament days.
That's where all
just
the
how it works.
Are. They're on the 2% waters. They're all in big, giant bodies of water. So.
Yep. Trust me, we wish they weren't. And we were in Minnesota and some of these smaller bodies, especially for like championships, because they're great fisheries. Those are great fisheries where like a Devil's Lake, which is still a big body of water, but those kind of fisheries, like you have a ton over there in Minnesota, where every technique you can use, so you can fish to your strengths. If you're a troller, go troll. If you're a slip bobber, a jig, whatever, all those bites are usually sometimes happen at the same times. Kakawea is a good place. Walleye, you can kind of get some of that, but not, because we just don't, you have rocks and structure and weeds and mud, and most of the places we go don't have all of those things.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless they're 50 miles apart.
Yeah, they're outside of the water clarity.
Right.
They're super diverse. We have like a super diverse. We have like a lot of super diverse resources where we live. We do have the dirty water and stuff as well. Yep. But if you get planted on one big body of water, the only thing that's not going to be diverse is the water clarity on that lake. It might be a clear fishery or a dirty fishery, but we got weeds, we got rocks, we got mud, you can do anything, like some of the local leagues, especially before forward facing. We'd have, guys would be catching them. You didn't know if the lead core guys were going to win, or if the jig flippers, on the weed edges were going to win, or if you had to run up into 3 feet of water, and throw plastics or something. And then turns out the guys that ended up winning were trolling crankbaits in the weeds in like 6 feet of water, and they were just like getting fouled up like crazy. And then they would pop it off, but they could pop it out of the weeds 5 or 6 times and get 5 or 6 big bites for the night. And that was
Sounds
it.
like that's happened to you.
No, that's like a specific example, right?
Yep.
And you think, oh, it's going to be, pulling spinners, off the break or whatever it's going to be. And it's like, no, some guy wanted doing something crazy,
Yep.
So anyway, there's so much that can happen out there.
Yeah, I think some of the bodies of waters that we get a fish on, Devils and Bago are probably the two that kind of fall in it, where you can kind of go fish your strengths. Bago's got all sorts of different options with the rivers and the chains, and then Devils is just full of rocks, trees, weeds, and muddy water, clean water, algae water, you name it. And there's fish everywhere in all those spots all year. So it's a
Devils
pretty cool place.
Super diverse for sure. I've been there a couple times, and that would be a fun place because you got all types of stuff.
Speaking of those destinations, what are your favorite? We're deep into ice season. People are looking to go hit up some ice fishing spots, whether it's in Minnesota or anywhere. What's your top 5? Where's Nick going ice fishing if he gets to choose in the U.S.? We get it. Canada, big, Winnipeg.
Oh, I was just going to name a bunch of Canadian spots. Okay, so that's a good question. I would say for me, the closest thing you can get to Canada a lot of times is North Dakota. So that's a place that I do like to go when I can. Devil's Lake area. I need to go farther west because I just haven't. It's hard to drive past Devils and all the pothole lakes and all that. Some of the craziest fishing that I've had, is some of like the Dakota potholes, And I think some of that's maybe like you got to be in the know a little bit. I don't know if there's ways to find that with that, looking through survey data and stuff like that.
Onyx, if it's on there, if there's any data, right? Joel's got it over there on the Onyx Fish app. So,
and that's what I'd like to play with more. Maybe this winter is try some of those sloughs, basically going on Onyx and looking at some of that data and seeing if you can find some of it that way. So I guess that would be one. Beyond that, we're looking at doing a trip over to Green Bay as well to do some ice fishing out on Green Bay. We got a buddy over there who guides, and he's checking the ice, knows about conditions, is pretty tuned in with the bite, and that looks like your opportunity to maybe catch the very, very biggest walleyes through the ice in our regional area. Not saying you can't go out west or Montana or wherever and all the different places, but as far as something that's somewhat close within our vicinity here, going to Green Bay would be that's like super high on my bucket list. I think we're gonna try and make that happen this winter. Beyond that, another thing too that I feel like is super, super underrated that people don't really talk about is just there's so many fun and interesting opportunities to I don't know, some people are gonna just like roll their eyes, but fish for bass for bass through the ice. So locally, north of here, south of here, there's so many good fisheries with really nice bass and big populations. I mean, realistically, we're like so spoiled, and we just don't. Some people obviously appreciate it. There's a lot of bass heads, in the north here, but we have just the best bass fishing anywhere.
You do. I did what's his name? Josh, Minnesota Fishing Guides.
Okay, Josh Douglas or Josh?
No.
Oh, Josh. Yes, that's the name of his business.
Minnesota Fishing Guides.
Yeah, I know Josh. Yeah. So
him and I did a photo shoot for Cabela's catalog ice fishing years ago, and so Josh set us up. Anyway, they hired Josh to put us on the fish. So him and I were obviously drilling and fishing, and that's all I was catching was largemouth, big ones, like 3 and 4 pound largemouth through the ice. And I think we got some pike, and that's all we caught. I don't think we got any crappie or walleye. He's like, I don't know. And we were fishing weeds, and it was this largemouth after tip-ups were popping, and the jig and bite wasn't good. It was more of a tip-up and shiner type thing. And I was like, huh. He's like, yeah, we got a lot of bass, man. He's like, nobody's fishing for us. We got a lot of bass. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we used to do some work with Josh back when I used to work with my dad, and we used to do angling buzz stuff, and he would do a lot of reports from the central Minnesota area, St. Cloud area. But yeah, I mean, obviously down south is so popular, for bass fishing, and we don't maybe have quite the top end up here that they do down there as far as like big trophy fish. But it is just insane bass fishing, and one of my favorite things to do is like just go up in the weeds, set up your tent, and get an underwater camera going, and you just watch them. And a lot of people will target them with little like tungsten jigs and stuff like that, because a lot of times they can be kind of soft biters. But I found if you're upsizing, they're gonna upsize their attitude. So a lot of times, like I'm gonna use like kind of like a moderate, like a walleye sized hard bait, and or like a large crappie sized hard bait,
like ripping wraps even, and
exactly, like rattle baits or glide baits or any of that, and they just come in and just woof baits, and you can watch them do it. You can watch them do it in 7 feet of water on top of the weeds. So, and then you can set up a tip up out in the distance, and I'll put an underwater camera on that too, so I get to watch the tip up swimming around. So that's one that I really, really like. I think bass fishing is super underrated. And now in Minnesota, they opened up the season. So it's season round. It's open year round. So I think we were one of like 2 states that had a closed bass season, I think, in all of the United States. And so now it's open year round. And so that means when the rest of the seasons close at the end of February, we still have a predator species to target in March. So I hope more people get to take advantage of that, or try to take advantage of that going forward. But outside of that, another big one is actually kind of another local one, is just some of the perch fisheries in Minnesota are kind of blowing up a little bit. So Mille Lacs is kind of insane right now. There's a ton of perch on Mille Lacs, and like Leech and Winnie are still kicking out really, really awesome perch. So we're getting like a little bit of a perch revival here in Minnesota. So I'd say that's kind of another bite that I feel like is worth highlighting kind of in the coming months here. So then that's another species that's open year round,
Right.
So we got a lot of like really cool opportunities in March now, beyond just bluegills and crappies and stuff like that. So those are a few. I feel like, what is that, 4? You got 5.
4 or 5. I lost count, but it's a good number. I mean, I've never seen too many people shy away, especially ice anglers, from a good perch bite. So that's always handy when you can get a mix. If the walleye aren't cooperating, go chase the perch, or or vice versa. You maybe pick up a walleye perch fish, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Another bite like in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, that I'm looking at going up and doing. You said not in Canada. This is a gray area. Technically, actually, I don't think it is, because I think you have to stay on the U.S. side. I think, I'm not sure, but the Rainy River doing some sturgeon fishing on the Rainy River. So that's like been a bucket list thing for me for like a really long time. And obviously guys down in like the St. Croix River, have targeted them pretty heavy. But I do feel like the population on the Rainy River is just more, a little more impressive. There's just the size structure of the fish and stuff like that. So hoping to get into them up there here pretty soon. So that's kind of another one that I would say.
Yeah, I would say anything that connects to Lake of the Woods is pretty good fishing.
Pretty good, yeah.
It's got to be pretty good fishing. And we just had Paul Johnson from Riverbend Resort on here talking about that exact same, and then the Rainy River Run. I mean, that's bucket list of mine too. I've been to Lake of the Woods ice fishing and open water fishing, but I never am able to get there in early April to get on that spring bite, and nor get there early enough in December or January to get on the kind of the better. I end up there in February. Kind of the big fish bite isn't so great through the ice, but man, you catch fish all day long. And you pick up some, 20 some inchers, which you can't keep there or nothing. But I think every trip if you're like me, I want to catch big fish all the time. I don't care if I keep any ever. So that's fine. but definitely have a place. But your favorite or most effective way to target some of these fish? Let's say January. I suppose it's kind of mid-season ice, maybe depending on where you're located at. For me, it's going to be like my first time getting on the ice, but
yeah. Okay, so if I'm targeting walleyes, I'm assuming we're going in the walleye direction.
yeah, we like that direction most.
That's a good direction. Yeah. So I would say it's basically just going to be a 1-2 punch because we get 2 lines here in Minnesota. So a lot of times, like I like to like some of the different, especially early ice bites. Like I like to, set up somewhere, and especially if I'm in a place where I know the fish are going to be roaming around, like Red Lake, for example. Like we talked about lakes where it's more basiny or more muddy, and there's less structure. You can set up a tip up 100 yards that way, and it's basically the same as where you got it set up right now. So one thing I actually do like to do is I like to have like an active jigging setup, and I'll jig in my hole, and then I'll have a dead stick really close. So I kind of like that for potentially calling fish in with your spoon or with your rattle bait. Let's just if we're just talking about one deal, let's just say it's a spoon, like an 1/8 ounce spoon. It's going to be a go-to. So I'll jig right here in this hole, and then I'll have like 2 or 3 feet away, I'll have a dead stick. A lot of times that could be a treble with a split shot, like a number 8 treble, I'd say, maybe a number 10. And if I go into, the Dakotas or Canada, that might be a number 6 treble or whatever. But if I'm around home and it's really finicky, it might be a number 10, and then I'll just have, a minnow on there, like a shiner or even just like a fathead, even sometimes can get the job done, especially on one of the smaller hooks. But another option too is like I'll actually put a drop shot down instead of that treble hook setup. I just like the drop shot. It's so fast and easy and efficient. It's something I've been using a lot more. So that would be like a number four octopus style hook. And then just whatever weight, like an 1/8 ounce weight or something on the bottom. The weight is a little bit less relevant, but lighter is still probably better for when that fish grabs it and starts swimming with it. So that'll be like a 1-2 punch that I like to do for sure. Especially on lakes where, the depth and stuff maybe doesn't matter as much. But otherwise, what I'll do is I'll actively jig in a hole, and then I will set a tip up either significantly shallower or significantly deeper than where I'm set up jigging, just so you kind of have like a little bit of a tattletale of where the fish are running around. Obviously, forward-facing sonar helps you know if there's fish swimming around you that maybe didn't come up to your bait, versus having a flasher back in the day. Well, actually, we were using a flasher yesterday a little bit too, so maybe not always back in the day, but
it still works.
It still works. Yeah, it still works. But so forward-facing sonar can help you know like where those fish are running, if they're down the bottom of the break or you're seeing more fish up high. But like a flag or a set line is still, a great tool for that. So basically for me, it's a 1-2 punch, utilizing all the lures that I can, as many lines as I can, and jigging, and then, either having that set line as a cleanup right next to you, or maybe you're drawing them in with the jigging, and then they look at that for a while, follow you up, and then look at this, a live minnow. Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah. Or using it to just, get like cover a little bit more ground in an area. Because a lot of times, a lot of our bites around home are like, we call them flash bites, where the sun is just hitting the horizon on the way up or on the way down. Up or down.
You got a short window to get in there.
Yeah. So it's like, you got a half hour, 45 minutes. So sometimes covering, drilling a few holes before you get out, before that bite window starts is critical. And then kind of letting your electronics and your dead stick kind of tell you if you need to move up shallower or deeper in that super condensed window. So
Yep, it's good to know that we fish about the same then, except I got to put more lines out over here. So
yeah, that
I'm
helps.
going to run. I usually run a tip up pretty shallow and then one pretty deep, and then I'll fish in the middle. But same thing. If I go in the evening we got some trophy lake not too far from here, and it's full of fish, but there's no point of going there until that last evening window. So I'll go out at 3 to get set up and drill. So you're not drilling when the bite's good. Get all that stuff. Get it all set up. And sometimes they're so tight to the bottom, it's hard to even know that they're there. But all of a sudden, the sun starts to go and it just comes alive.
Yeah,
and you can't even run 2 rods because you're popping them so fast, But same deal. I love a rip shad or some type of rattle bait. Call them in and then have that dead stick. And I don't know. Ice fishing, it's hard to beat a jig and a minnow. Or just a minnow. It's just. There's a lot of baits out there, and they all work, and there's a time and place for them. But if you go without just having a jig and minnow ready to go, you're probably going to be missing out. You should always have one.
Yeah, minnows they're super good. If you guys haven't used a minnow, you should definitely try it.
You should definitely give it a shot. There's a reason they make all these fake baits that look like minnows. There's some type of correlation between the two. So
It is funny too, because that is true, and there's been times where it's like every bite will come on a dead stick, and there's some days where I will say you're better off probably just only running dead sticks. Like if you're allowed 2 lines in Minnesota, you're better off setting those 2 dead sticks up, or tip ups, whatever you want to use, dead stick or tip up, and setting those maybe up on the weed edge or holes in the weeds, or by a little sand transition or something like that, and just getting out away from those baits. Like that's one thing that we noticed we went up north to Canada and fished some stock trout really early this winter for first ice. And honest to goodness, I think the very, very best strategy for those big trophy rainbows that we were trying to catch was to set lines and just get away from them. Because in our jigging hole, we just marked nothing at all. And the set lines were popping like really, really good. So and I think walleyes can be the same way. Just get away from the baits and let them do their thing.
you think that's transducer noise, people noise?
I think it's just people, and people and presentation.
Right.
I think the jury's still out on if transducer noise impacts the fish. But I don't think that that's something that like is easily objectively proven.
Yeah,
but I do know one thing, like if you're sitting there, like they know you're there. I mean, put an underwater camera down and point it up. You can see a big giant shadow on the ice. Like it's like the same with a boat. Like walleyes know your boat is there. Like I promise. Like and then if you're jigging, right? Like it might just be the jigging thing, just a super subtle minnow. Maybe that minnow is just sitting there. And then like a predator gets close and it starts to kick away a little bit. And sometimes that's just better. And staying away from it, because on a lot of our lakes, like they're super hypersensitive to sound and stuff like that. That said, we were out in Mille Lacs yesterday and we couldn't buy a bite on set lines. Every single walleye came on jigging rods, and it's like we might as well not even set the set lines up. Like they were a waste of time. So
that's fishing. Every day is different, though. I mean, right? We don't dictate their mood. We just have to. The game is to try to determine their mood and what's going to work.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
No.
So that's just you always got to try it. That's kind of like a moral of the story, right? You have to have a handful of different things ready to go, and you have to be experimenting with multiple things at the same time. If you can get a couple people out, you can get more lines, so you can try more things. They might want little fathead minnows. They might want, bigger sucker minnows or shiners. Or they might want a jigging, or they might not. And, you don't know. But then, like, once you see a few things happen, like adjusting quickly so you can kind of capitalize on what's going on. Like the faster you can do that, the better. So
I was just going to ask you to drop your little nugget or tip or trick, but I think you just did. Right? So
was it good enough nugget?
Yeah, so you got another one. If you got something to leave them to make them all better anglers, go ahead, drop it. I think that one's pretty good, though.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Another thing, too, is just playing with gear a lot, too, as far as just the componentry of your gear. Like one thing, like a couple things that I'll do a lot in all different types of situations is experimenting with the line and the hooks that I'm using. So if it's set lines, we talked a little bit about set lines, whether it's drop shots versus treble hooks or something on your set lines or whatever. But there are times and places for heavier line or lighter line. A lot of times, like, I will go with 6-pound fluorocarbon as my main line and my leader for a lot of the walleye fishing I'll do around home. But one thing I've kind of learned traveling around a lot is that sometimes it'd be nice to have 8, or sometimes 10 even, depending on where you're going. Like if you're using a rattle bait on Winnipeg, like, well, why wouldn't you have 10?
Right.
You might as well have 10. So, like, we went rainbow trout fishing early in the season, like I talked about, and, came in super, super finesse because that's what we do around home. The lakes are super crystal clear.
That's trout fishing.
The trout are not terribly big,
Right.
like they're you can get a good one, but like, it's a lot of, low teener fish, hoping for a high teen. And it's like, you're crappie fishing. You're basically crappie fishing. And going up there, and it's like, oh, the size structure of these fish are a lot bigger. And so it's like every day is just like re-rigging everything to be bigger and heavier, So, but line is a big one because line can really impact the bites you're getting. If you're fishing crystal clear water, like one thing, my buddy Brad Hawthorne, who guides and runs a bunch of wheelhouses and stuff out on Mille Lacs, is one thing he'll say is like, on your rattle reels, like on Mille Lacs, you want that leader to basically go up to the ice because the walleyes are super smart. They're super pressured. They can be really finicky. They can be hard to catch, especially once you get in the middle of the year, which we're basically almost already in, essentially.
Yep.
So having that leader go up to the ceiling and having it be light, like 6 pound, maybe less potentially if you want to, venture lower. But so that's a big one. And then the other one is just playing with hooks a lot of times. So like I'm always swapping out and trying, different sizes of treble hooks and stuff like that. So bigger obviously has some advantages. Smaller has some advantages as well. And sometimes you'll get spoons that are a lot smaller and they don't necessarily come with hooks that are matched well for walleye fishing. So taking like spoons that are maybe more designed for crappies with their little like number 12 hooks on them and like putting 8s or something on it and turning that into like a little bite-sized walleye candy, So those are a few of the things that I think about when I'm just playing around with stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we probably modify baits enough. Some guys do. Adding that Rapala, that treble hook with the drop spin on it.
Yeah.
Just little modifications, even in open water, can make a huge difference. I'm a Seaguar guy, so I'm Seaguar Ice X, and I'm getting my stuff all spooled up, and I downsized everything. I've been typically running 10 and some braid, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to go lighter lines and some longer leaders. It's all fluorocarbon.
Yep.
And just try it because I kind of did catch a lot of fish, ice fishing last year, and they were there. Not a lot of people were, but I'm always a little sensitive to go the lighter, the thinner diameters while I'll use a lot of braid because I got river current to cut.
Yep.
So that works great, but in the water's not crystal clear, and we're usually fishing, fairly deep. But that line is always rubbing with that current on those holes. So I'm always kind of leaning towards a little bit heavier, but then again, after all season, I bring it up. I'm like, there's not a single mark. The ice isn't cutting any of this line, so I don't know.
Yeah, that
I'm
makes
sure
sense.
it happens.
That's another testament too to just the varying conditions. Like, there's a different answer for different places, And braid might not be as great of an option in a lot of places, but for that application, that might just be the deal. And maybe you fish something similar, and it's like you've just always used mono, and it just is what it is, And it's like, well, especially if you're just fishing in a shack, like maybe you try braid, that might be better if you got current or whatever. So
yeah, I got a pretty good mix of all of them, and if they're coming in and looking and not biting, then I'm switching. I'm just keep mixing it up. I probably need to switch up those hooks, like you're saying, though, a lot more. We get lazy sometimes, but it's winter and there's not a whole hell of a lot else to do when you just fish. So take that time, and especially if you're just sitting there waiting for that bite window, it's a great time to fiddle with your stuff and go out and invest it literally. And I've gotten way better over the years about it. I'm like, it takes you 30 seconds or 1 minute to do this, and that can change your entire day. All of a sudden, from missing fish to catching fish, where guys are like, I just keep missing. I'm like, we need to downsize or do this or sharpen a hook or whatever it is. It's always like, I'll get the next one. I'm like, you missed 3 fish in a row. Something's not right. So you can either take 30 seconds and change it, or you can just sit there and bitch about it all day long. Whatever. It's up to you. I'm going to take 30 seconds.
That's definitely true. And then on the other side of it, I'll do like a live stream, like an ice fishing live stream. Like I've done some of them up on Red Lake, and someone will be watching for 20 minutes, and maybe we don't mark a fish or something like that, and they'll comment in, been watching for the last 20 minutes, no fish, time to change baits. And I'm like, I'm not going to change baits. I didn't have any fish even come in and look at my baits.
Right. I don't know if it's not working because nothing's looked at it. So
that doesn't mean you got to change baits every 20 minutes if you're not marking fish or getting bites, Right.
Location, but bait, no.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the middle of a live stream. I'm not picking up and moving. So this is it.
That's the problem too. Yeah.
Right.
The location part is hard. Yeah.
We're kind of locked in right here, folks. So hopefully they want to play. But I mean, you obviously went out early and found fish or on a spot where they're going to show up. But once again, it's fishing. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that is the hard part too, right? Because you're like, it doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, there's been times where you go out and fish and, there's fish in the area and there's fish around and it's like, your minnow head fell off, and then it's like, but there's fish like crawling all over. This is prime time. It's like, that's one thing. That's like a 60-second thing, but sometimes you fish without meat on it, because you're like, I got to stay down there just, because they're going right now or whatever. So
I've had, as a guy that see it all the time, I had a client a few years ago. I'm like, check it. You got bit, and it's good. I'm like, it isn't good. It's going to take you 10 seconds to reel it in and throw up another crawler on, and they'd bring it in and it'd be no bait. And he's like, I'm fishing on credit. I'm like, yeah, your credits ran out, buddy. You've over the limit. You got to put some bait on there. Get some cash back flow. Fishing on credit ain't going to work. So
exactly.
Not a lot of times am I catching walleyes on bear hooks. So
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
There's a few things: death and taxes, and fish biting with no bait on the hook. There's a couple things that we're kind of guaranteed. Not to say I have got a walleye on a slow death hook with no bait, but trying to hook a net that fell in the water. But that was a red, old, original slow Mustad slow death hook, and it came up and ate it. I'm like, well, they're not very smart. That one was really hungry. So
that'll happen, yeah.
That happens once in a while. So, all right, Nick, appreciate your time. Where can people find you? What's the YouTube? What's your social channels? We'll put a link in below for them as well, but tell them where they can find it for the listeners.
Yeah, no, just if you just type in Nick Lindner in most places, it'll probably just pop up. I would say for the most part, a lot of the stuff that you'd want to look for from me would probably be on YouTube. Probably
YouTube it.
Yeah, I'm starting to put some more stuff on Facebook, and I've had an Instagram for a while or whatever. But I would say YouTube would be the best spot for the better content. So that would be where I'd go.
That's where everybody goes. That's where That's where all the fishing shows are at nowadays. If you want to know it, it's on YouTube. So, and if it's not, one of the other channels is going to lead you back to it because that's where it's at, right? It's free TV.
This is on YouTube.
This is on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Apple, all those podcast platforms for you listening to it. But if you want to watch it, catch it over on the YouTube channel or on the Walleye Guys Facebook page as well. And appreciate your time, Nick. Thank you and good luck this ice season. And thank all you for tuning in today and stay safe. And we'll see you on the ice.